Hi. Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated in the month between September and October 15th, so Care Club has decided to put together a presentation highlighting Hispanic leaders, culture, and the Hispanic experience in the world.
Disclaimer: this is by no means a comprehensive or detailed presentation, and we encourage you to do your own research. These slides were made by a few students in their spare time with the goal of giving an overview about specific topics surrounding Hispanic and Latinx people.
National Hispanic Heritage Month is from September 15th to October 15th, and it's a month dedicated to celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of people who are from or have ancestors from Spain and or Latin/South America. The reason for these dates is because September 15th is the anniversary of independence for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th and September 18th, respectively.
The growing awareness of multicultural identities in the U.S. during the 1960s gave the Latinx community an opportunity to be recognized for all their contributions. Learn more at www.hispanicheritagemonth.gov. Keep in mind the danger of a single story. What we learn in school is often seen through a Eurocentric lens, not equally portraying all groups. We encourage you to interact with non-traditional media sources to get a better idea of true Hispanic and Latinx history. Check out these sources below to learn something new.
Firstly, we're going to talk about the racial inequity that occurs in Latin America. Indigenous and Afro-descendant populations in Latin America are still feeling the effects of colonial exploitation and the racially divided caste system the Spaniards left behind. If you're unfamiliar with the caste system, basically when the Spanish colonized Latin America, they structured society in a way where your social status is based on what race you were. So it was white people at the top, and then mixed people, and then at the very bottom were indigenous and black people. So 60 to 90% of indigenous and black people live in poverty, resulting in a lack of access to healthcare or resources. Indigenous and black communities also have limited access to leadership and political positions. Due to this caste system, racism and colorism have prevailed in media, education, and political systems. The myth of racial democracy, or that racial mixing in a population is a symptom of racial harmony and the absence of race-based inequalities, remains very influential and prevents these issues being addressed. This idea of racial democracy is also relevant in the US, where people just assume that because we are such a diverse country that therefore any inequalities that occur are irrelevant. Going more into the indigenous populations of Latin America, there are over 800 different indigenous peoples, with a total estimated population of 45 million. But with a group this large, how represented are they in their governments? And the answer is barely. A lot of people assume that it's because indigenous people aren't interested in politics. However, that is not correct. Data collected from Vanderbilt University's Latin America Public Opinion Project shows there's virtually no difference between white and indigenous political interests. Knowing this, we have to ask the question, what systemic forces are allowing for these representational imbalances, and how can countries overthrow them? So how are countries attempting to battle this? Well, one of the main ways they're attacking this is through ethnoeducation, which is the recognition of different cultures in schools. The hope of ethnoeducation is that by acknowledging and respecting different ethnicities and minority cultures in a school environment, that this way young students will grow up and become more tolerant and accepting citizens. However, there are many additional solutions that governments can take in addressing inclusion. For example, they can create surveys to determine the racial ethnic composition of leadership and staff, and then consider programs that address these gaps. They can support affinity groups that enable targeted populations to create peer networks that support professional advancement. They can prohibit the requirement of photos on resumes, as well as broaden universities selected for recruitment events, specifically considering universities located in regions with larger indigenous and black populations. The recent upsurge in the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States has led to protests all over the world, in this case, Latin American countries. These protests advocate for their Afro-Latinx citizens and show support for Black Americans in the U.S.
Hispanic and Latinx portrayal in the media. Half of Latinx characters on TV are portrayed in a negative and stereotyped light. For example, women have overly sexualized roles, whereas men have exaggerated, dominant, and macho roles. Hispanic Latinx people are portrayed as very strong, with stereotypical accents, and fill the roles of service workers or criminals. Comprehensive Annenberg report on diversity found Latinos are among the least represented speaking roles in American film and TV. This is due to, in part, on-screen representation, which starts in the writing room of predominantly white writers. Thus, on-screen diversity will never be fully achieved until there is diversity behind the screen.
Some examples of these positive Latinx portrayals include shows like Station 19 on ABC or Hulu, Hentified on Netflix, Brooklyn Nine-Nine on NBC or Hulu, One Day at a Time, also on Netflix, and Diary of a Future President and Alina of Avalar, both on Disney+.
Let's talk about debunking and busting some of the harmful myths and stereotypes that are often placed against Hispanic and Latinx people. Hispanics and Latinos are all illegal immigrants. Actually, 47 million out of 52 million Hispanics that are in the U.S. are citizens, not even including those that are on a legal visa. Hispanic and Latinos are lazy. A study shows that students from ethnic minority backgrounds actually have higher levels of motivation than their equally achieving peers from European backgrounds, a motivation that usually comes from an emphasis on education as a stepping stone into more social and economic opportunities in Latinx and other minority families, with students eventually providing and contributing back to their families. Hispanics and Latinos are job stealers. Another study shows of the labor market competition among the Black, Hispanic, and non-Hispanic white population finds that there's no evidence that Hispanics have a negative impact on the earnings of the other two groups. Hispanics are not taking away jobs that non-Hispanic groups want. They're working the low-paying and few-benefit blue-collar jobs that are often extremely necessary for the economy. Hispanics and Latinos are spicy and hot-tempered. This is a stereotype that's fed to us and reinforced by one-sided and shallow media portrayals. It's very problematic because you cannot generalize a trait to an entire group of people, and it's unfair to Latinx people. You're Latino? You must be from Mexico. Although many Mexican Americans and Mexican immigrants in the U.S., there are over 30 Latin countries, and it's ignorant to automatically assume every single Latinx person is from Mexico. Hispanics and Latinos are all criminals, rapists, and overall bad people. Actually, Supreme Court justices, members of Congress, and important CEOs are all Latino. Our next slide will highlight some important and influential Hispanic and Latinx people.
Some of these influential figures include Selena Quintanilla, Rigoberta Menchú, and Adriana Ocampo. CARE has been researching influential Latinx and Hispanic figures and creating Instagram story graphics for them weekly. We'll continue to put these out until Hispanic Heritage Month is over, and if you have Instagram, go to care_IHS and click on our story to view the Hispanic Heritage Month highlight. If you don't have Instagram, go to the link in this presentation to access the doc with the Google Drive containing all the designs as well as the info used in this presentation.
How you can help if you're not Hispanic or Latinx. Consume culturally diverse media that does not stereotype a specific group. Educate yourself. Be open-minded to new cultures and experiences. And don't get immediately defensive if someone corrects you. Listen to, advocate for, and support your Hispanic and Latinx peers.
That is the end of the informational part of our presentation. Lastly, we wanted to let you guys know that CARE is having a Hispanic Heritage Month Celebration Day on Friday, October 9th from 3:15 to 4:15. We're going to be doing some easy cooking, crafts, as well as learning about Hispanic and Latinx culture. If you have ideas for how CARE can better celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month this year or next year, you can submit them through this form, bit.ly/HHM input. And if you're interested in attending our celebration day, you can do any of these options. However, we prefer you to fill out the form. You can fill out the form bit.ly/HHM RSVP. You can also DM us on Instagram at care_IHS, or you could email Ms. Hutch if the two above options don't work for you.
Thank you for viewing. We hope that you can make it over to our Zoom link at 3:15 and join us for CARE's first major celebration of the 2020-2021 school year.